This is not a ride-sharing video. I repeat, this is not a ride-sharing video. What up, folks? Once again, it is your boy Tim, the handsome liberal, trying to get our bearings together here. As we were discussing, we're going to be talking about transgender Republicans. I know a lot of you folks would hear that and think oxymoron. Nevertheless, we are going to be asking the question, what can the transgender community do to become more favorable to Republicans, to the Republican Party? Because if you notice, most of the information coming out, particularly from the right side of the aisle, in regards to the transgender community is negative. So we're trying to find out, if we want to see things from an aspect of positivity, what can the transgender community do to become more favorable to the GOP? After all, transgendered individuals are concerned with the economy. Lots of transgender folks are concerned with the border. Many African Americans in the transgender community are not big fans of President Biden. Nevertheless, almost all of the information coming out in relations to the transgender community from the right side of the aisle is negative. So we're going to ask the question, what can we do as a society to make the transgender community more favorable to the GOP? Now, before we go to the comments, as always, I make it clear on every broadcast, this is and always will be a MAGA-friendly program. Liberals are welcome as well. Nevertheless, there is no fear of being blocked, banned, or censored because someone disagrees with your opinion. We're not about that here. It's always about your right to speak. Even if you disagree with the host, nobody gives a damn. Looking in the comments, burn that hat behind you. Why would I set such a nice looking garment on fire? Wow. It's always the ones with the little lips. What the hell is that? Okay. When we'll just have a birthday. Some of you guys are saying some crazy stuff. It's not about being favorable or unfavorable. It's the push that people don't like. Okay, let's go with that. In regards to the transgender community, pushing their lifestyle upon the people, shoving it down the throats of children. How can the transgender community survive without doing that? Good example. Let's say Michael Jordan, the famous basketball player, goes out and puts his face on a t-shirt. Is that Michael Jordan shoving his image down the throat of children? Because that is what we're suggesting when you're seeing a transgender person on the front of a can of Bud Light. It wasn't about the beer in the can anymore. It was about the actual picture on the outside. So we're going to ask, how can they function? Because transgender people need work. They need to earn a living. How can they function if the belief is anywhere you go, you're shoving your lifestyle down my throat? That's what we're going to be talking about. Trying to figure out, how can this community become more favorable to the GOP? Looking in the comments, it's a Republican hat. All right. America was never great for you, sir. All right. Bud Light is done. That's a good thing. Why would you terminate a beer based on one person that they sponsored? Is this not cancel culture? Are Republicans starting to become quote-unquote woke? Let me know in the comments. As always, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes. The program is and shall remain MAGA-friendly in its entirety. Liberals are welcome as well, but as always, we don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their damn commentary. You don't have to agree with the host. We don't do that here. All right, going to the box. Talking about how can the transgender community become more favorable to Republicans. Tom Daddario, we'll make it happen. I can't get the name right, but nevertheless, good afternoon to the program, Tom.
Hey, how are you,
Is
buddy?
it possible at all for the transgender community to become favorable to Republicans?
I think perhaps with some education they could, perhaps with a little bit of a better understanding of the difference between gender and their sexual orientation when they're born. You know what I'm saying? I think with some.
Okay, so let's say for shits and giggles, I decided to become the ugliest woman on TikTok. Give me the education I would need as a woman now. I just became a really ugly woman right before your eyes. What education, what would I need to be taught so that I could become more favorable to Republicans?
Well, I mean, they're the ones that need the knowledge. Like, I'm not shifting gears on you, but when I was younger, I played sports in Queens. I live in New York my whole life. And I learned a lot about different cultures by playing on different teams. It's almost like, you're in a melting pot.
Well, but think about it.
Learn.
But think about
So
it, Tom.
they need to learn.
Tom, I am playing for a different team. I'm playing for the women. I'm playing for the Long Island women right now. Give me what I need to learn so that Republicans will be more favorable to me.
Well, as I was saying, I don't believe that you need to do the learning. I think they need to do the learning. And I do as well. Like, I'm a straight, cis, white man, right? And I need to learn more about their perspective and gender. And I need to learn more about people being in sports when their pronouns are him, he, and they're playing in women's athletics. I need to learn more about that as well. I have to admit, I'm not as learned as I could be. Now
you mentioned a phrase. I gotta admit, I'm gonna claim ignorance here because I am ignorant on this topic. What does it mean when they say cisgender? What does that CIS even mean?
Well, I'm just a straight white male. I'm a straight white male.
Then why you call it? Then why does CIS come in? Is there an acronym? Does that mean anything?
Well, that's also a good question. Maybe someone in the chat will know.
Okay. Well, you used it. The reason I'm asking you is because you used the term, so you don't really know what that means.
No. I guess I don't know what the acronym stands for, but I've had a lot of exposure to people using descriptions of themselves or describing me that way, or other male presenting people who are date women. I'm painfully straight. So that's me.
Yeah, I always take the Lil Kim approach. I'm straight like 3:15 on the clock. So yeah, straight across. I'm the same way, but I'm trying to find out because I tend to communicate with a lot of folks on the right, and their viewpoint of the transgender community is often negative, and I'm trying to find out. So you're saying it is the right-wing community themselves that need to be educated?
Well, yes, I believe, just like with anything else. Like I said, I'm not derailing your subject because I know you're on a specific subject, but almost anything else where we have those, the legalities of the election and, so on and so forth, things that you and I talk about often in our own lives. I do a bunch of my own lives as well. And we talk about these different subjects, and we just go by statistical facts or mathematics. And when we turn to people, it's not that we need to learn like different math. They need to learn the math that we're discussing, and they need to learn what we're talking about. And
what about the possibility of it being new math? You and I may have went to school back in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, and the way they're teaching children the math now is different. What about when it comes to pronouns and things like that? You have to understand you're teaching new math. Folks did not learn their arithmetic this way.
Well, you're right about that. That's a very good correlation. That's a very good analogy. And I just believe that it's like, if I don't want, like, listen, there's space-time and quantum physics that I didn't study when I was a kid. I study it now. It's very complicated. I hope one day to understand it. Thankfully, physicists said that it's unlikely I will for a long time. So I'm like, oh, good. I can be an idiot, and I just got permission to be an idiot. And so, but having said that, I think that that's something that you do need to change your perspective and your way of thinking. If you go by what was the modus operandi of the 1970s, then what would you do? Would you go by, if you were brought up in the 50s, do you go around saying, hey, toots, how are you today? You know what I mean? Like, we have to all learn and grow, and progress has to happen. So I believe that when it comes to pronouns and orientation and what you need to ask people, please tell me, please let me understand who you are and what you're going through. And I think
so let me ask you one. I got to move it up. Let me ask you one final question. The Republican Congress is going to introduce legislation that bans naturally born males from playing for teams of the opposite gender. So if you're born a man and you transition to a female, you cannot play sports in the female leagues. Now that's being proposed by the Republican Congress. Biden has already promised to veto it. If it came on your desk and it was up to you, how would you go with that?
I would have to go with, especially being like, and I'm not saying that you're putting me on the spot, but just in this type of situation, I would literally have to say, before I'm affecting people's lives that much, I would get experts around me, and I would need these things explained to me, and I would want to talk to both sides to understand what this means. Is musculature something that's going to give a person?
Do you really? Wait a minute. Come on now. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm 6'6", 300 pounds. If
Yes.
I'm on a basketball court, do you really need a physician to tell you that that dude has an advantage?
Oh, you absolutely would have an advantage. And I don't know how
Right.
to, I don't know how to navigate around that, because naturally I don't want to say something that's going to hurt someone's feelings because of my lack of knowledge about a subject, right? So I don't want to speak now proverbially out of my ass. I don't want to do that, because talking out of my butt never helped me ever once.
Fair enough.
So I do try to pride myself on saying, I don't understand that. Can you please explain it to me? Or being willing to say, I don't know. I have to learn about that. I'm
Fair
not
enough.
educated in that field.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with asking for assistance or being educated. But Tom, I got to move it on.
Of course, my
Appreciate you
friend.
coming in here.
Thanks for
Absolutely.
having me in. It was shocking, and the other day I waited a while. And I was petting my cat, and then I had some things to do. And then this time I asked you, and you let me right in. I'm like, it's like, oh my God.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Well, come on.
Live.
Anytime.
I love
Thank
what you
you.
do. Take
All right. Folks, as always, tap the screen. You know what I ask on every broadcast. Get your boy up to 20,000. We got well over 1,000 folks in here. This is and always will remain a MAGA-friendly program. Liberals are welcome as well. And as always, the promise is we don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their damn commentary. You do not, I repeat, you do not have to agree with the host. Yeehaw! Teddy, appreciate the hat and mustache. You don't have to agree with the host on this damn program. It's not about that. The host does not have any more right to speak than you do. That's how I run the program. Looking in the comments, pick me to talk. We'll look it up. Appreciate you folks that are following. What happened yesterday? I believe my device dropped. Trucker21. Democrat corruption. A rainbow twilight zone world of freak devils worshippers. Sicko living hell. That is a hell of a lot. And to get out in the amount of space that TikTok gives you to type. Appreciate that wave there. That came from Thomas. We've talked before. Thomas is always welcome on the program. But Democrats' corruption or rainbow twilight zone world of freak devil worship sicko living hell. Now, the topic of the program, which is why I'm rereading that statement, is how can the transgender community become more favorable to the Republican Party? What can they do to make the Republican Party more favorable? With a statement like that, devil worshiper and all of that in there, I'm going to assume with that individual, the answer is nothing. Appreciate the TikTok cap there. I can't see who just sent that to me, but thank you very much, Teddy. All right, looking back in the comments, if I had a daughter, I would be very upset with the sports issue. That's a common sentiment. Let's go back to the box, though. We'll keep it moving. Jeff A. Good afternoon, Jeff. Welcome to the program. What can the transgender community do to become more favorable to the Republican Party?
Hey, I just wanted to come on and explain the cis thing for you.
Sure.
So actually, the words come from Latin, and they're not acronyms. They're prefixes, or they're also terms used in chemistry. Trans means to be on the opposite side of, and cis means to be on the same side of. And the way that applies to cisgender and transgender is
the opposite side of what? Wait a minute, you said the opposite side of what?
That's what I'm going to explain. So in the terms of gender, if you are cisgender, that means that your biological sex is in alignment with your gender identity. So you are basically, I'm a cis man, so I was born a male and I still am a man. I still identify as a male. Now, if you're trans, you're on the opposite side of. So if I was to say, if I was born a male, but now I identify as a female, whether or not I got any surgery done or anything, I would be trans, on the opposite side of. So it's basically a term used a lot in chemistry, but also now in medical field and so forth to represent the same side of or the opposite side of. And it depends on what you're talking about after the prefix cis and trans. So if you have if you're dealing with chemistry and you have the way molecules will align with each other and so forth, you might use these terms cis and trans. So
you
it's
can
not necessary.
understand. You should be able to understand based on how you explain it why there is so much pushback. That's complicated as hell.
Well, maybe it's complicated, but the pushback seems to be just as like that it's a slur or that it's like an insult of some sort. It's not at all. In fact, it's not necessary to refer to myself or to you as cis unless we are talking about trans issues. I mean, it doesn't ever come up in regular conversation. It doesn't need to. But a lot of the TikTok rooms that talk about trans issues, they're talking about different people, like this is a trans woman we're talking about, or this is a trans man we're talking about. But now we're talking about a cis man.
But think about it. Everybody knows what gay means. Everybody knows what straight means. Everybody knows what trans means. Why do you have to say cis? We know what a transgender person is. Why is cis even necessary?
You don't have to say it.
Then why are they saying it? Then why is it coming up?
The only time it is helpful is when you're talking about trans issues. So if I'm talking about trans issues and you and I are having a discussion and we're talking about, let's say a trans woman goes into a bar, if you want to tell a joke maybe. And
is she okay? Does she come out okay? Or do we need to call an ambulance and the police?
Exactly. So if we're talking about that person, and then we want to talk about another individual in the scene, we might refer to them as a cis man, just to be clear that this other person coming into the scene is not a trans man or a trans woman, because we're talking about trans people. There's no other reason to talk about it.
At this point, you got to admit, they're starting to change our language, though. If all of a sudden when you're around trans people, hang on a second. If I'm around a group of trans people and I got to start talking differently and adding terms than you and I as straight males would use, you can see where there would be some pushback on that, right?
But no, that example you just gave doesn't exist. If you are around trans people, you don't need to start saying the word trans or cis to have a conversation. You just talk to them. It's when you're talking about people. There's no reason for anyone to ever call you directly cis to your face unless we were talking about the issues and maybe someone didn't know how you identify. And so if I was talking about trans people with you and the trans issues that's currently facing the country, and I didn't know that whether you identified as a man or not, I might say, are you a cis man? As opposed to, are you a trans woman? Or are you a trans man? We don't know those things. We don't need to know those things
I understand. I'm starting to understand it, but I'm going to tell you as a 50-year-old male, it's complicated because
I'm 50. I'm 56, and I have no complication with it at all. In fact, I first heard the term. I think I read it actually. I first read the term cisgender maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and I go, "What does that mean?" I looked it up. It said basically it's a non-trans person. It's a person that most people are cis. The vast majority of humans are cis. So I understood, okay, it just means it means that I'm not trans. And then I went on, and then I knew what it meant. And then like 2 years later, like maybe like last year, suddenly people were getting offended by it. And I go, what? It's the same thing as me calling you bald. You're a bald man.
Let me ask you this question though.
I don't need to refer to you as bald.
Okay, fair enough. Let me ask you this then. Without the transgender community, would we be using the term cis at all?
If there was no such thing as trans people, probably not. It's not necessary.
That's what I'm talking about. They've literally created a whole new word.
Just like if every one of us was black, you probably wouldn't refer to yourself as black. Or if every one of us is white, I wouldn't say I'm white.
Right.
We would say we might refer to
But
our
we
skin as
already
being
called,
more
yeah,
pale or
but
something, but it wouldn't be white.
we already called transgender people transgender. So I don't see
Yeah.
why the term cis is another term because they already
No,
have a designation.
it's new. It's new as far as it getting more exposure now, and the reason for that is trans people are now becoming more in the public eye. They've always been around
Hmm.
for centuries. They've mostly always stayed hidden, and this is the same thing that happened with gay and homosexuality. The gays and homosexualities were all closeted like 500 years ago. I mean, it was very rare
Wasn't
for
safe.
someone to
Yeah,
be
it wasn't
outwardly
safe.
gay.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't safe.
and so
Yeah.
so now we're confronting all these issues, and there is a backlash against the trans community. So we're talking about these things more. But cis is not a new term in the medical fields. They've referred to people as cis or trans for decades. It just hasn't been something that's come out in public as much.
Okay.
And I mean, you're probably similar to me. You probably heard about trans people decades ago, but we didn't talk about them much, and we never met them. Now, I meet people in public that are trans, but I still don't have to call them trans. And it's the same thing with
Why do
cis. I
you
don't have to
let
call
me
anybody
speaking
cis.
of, let me ask you that in your daily life, because you said you meet people as trans. I don't know if I've ever met anybody because they don't, if they are trans, they don't announce it to me. What are you
Well,
doing in your daily life that's causing you to meet so, because they're a small portion of the population, they're allowed to exist, but
they're
how are you
checkers at
meeting them? What are you doing?
they're checkers at my supermarket. There's a
Okay,
checker at my Home Depot near me that's a trans woman. There, I
fair
mean, I
enough.
live in Portland. I live in Portland, Oregon. It's more liberal and more out than a
Right.
lot of cities. So, and I also spend time in Los Angeles. Both of these places are pretty liberal, and people like that can
How do you know they're
basically
trans? Are they telling you they're trans? How do you know?
because they have the appearance and voice of a male, but they're wearing a dress and they are
All right,
displaying other feminine things. So you're right. I
fair
am.
enough.
I am assuming it. There are probably some cis men who'd like to dress as women and don't consider themselves trans. I am assuming it, but I think it's a pretty fair assumption.
Good point. All right,
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on and letting me know something I did not know. I got to move it on, but I'll consider
All right,
myself
love the
somewhat
show. Love the
educated.
show. Keep it up.
Hey, good talk. Come on back anytime. All right, looking in the God, I live in a small college town and they are everywhere here. You're Huckleberry, probably because they feel safe there. Being transgender is not safe in today's society. We've gotten to the point where it is safe to be openly gay, but it's not safe to be trans. So if there's a lot of them in your area, it's probably because they feel like it's a safe zone. I mean, I don't assume they're going to be roaming around rural Alabama anytime soon. It is what it is. All right, looking in the comments. Just let people live and we will let you live. Just be yourself. Don't push it. I don't know if putting yourself on a Bud Light can is stopping someone from living, because many folks would suggest, I don't have a problem with the transgender community. Don't shove it down my throat. Just let me live my life. You can live yours. Well, if I put my face on a Bud Light can, I'm not stopping you from living your life. Nevertheless, it did not stop Kid Rock from picking up a machine gun and shooting the hell out of a bunch of cans. So I don't know if it stops there. Tap the screen. Let's make it with 25,000 likes, 800 plus of you in here. I'm going to go back to the box as always. We'll keep it moving. This is an interesting name. D-Animal. Okay, will I be attacked? Let's see. D-Animal. Good. Welcome to the program. The question we're asking, hang on a second, D-Animal. The question we're asking is, what can the transgender community do to become more favorable to the Republican Party? Go.
This show, do you remember? Well, I do because my uncle used to watch it growing up. It was a TV show called MASH. There was a guy on there. He
Well,
was a
yeah, everybody
transgender,
knows Mad. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there was, I think his name was Proctor. He was transgendering. You know what I mean? Then you have TV shows. You had that Grace and Anime and all the gays and everything like that. Here's the thing. I don't think. See, it's been around for a long time, and I think everybody coincided with it, right? I don't think anybody really. There wasn't a lot. You got RuPaul, right? Remember RuPaul's a transgender.
But
Am I correct?
RuPaul does not. RuPaul, it would be more like dressing as a female, but RuPaul doesn't identify as a woman.
Oh yeah, you're right. You know what? You got a point there. But what I'm trying to get at is I think all this is already everything's already have been noticed. Everybody's noticed it. I don't think it's a Republican or Democrat thing. I really think it's a human nature thing.
You
I'm
don't
gonna be honest
think
with you.
you wait a minute, hold on. You don't see any difference in how the Republicans and Democrats view transgender
No,
people.
yes, there is a difference because but being that I favor more on the Republican side, that doesn't mean that I always was a Republican. You know what I mean? I'm only now. But you gotta
But that's
understand,
not what we're asking. I'm not talking
right?
about you personally. I'm
Correct.
asking the question: what can the transgender community, Teddy? Yeah, thank you. The question we're asking is: what can the transgender community do to become
Mhm.
more favorable to the Republican Party? Because it appears as if they have fallen out of favor. All of the legislation, all of the complaining, all of the rule
Right.
changes
I don't
are
think
coming
it's
from Republicans. They're not coming from liberals. So when you say you don't see any
you're
difference in the parties, I'm trying to figure out where
you're
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 getting it.
you're right because it became publicized is what I mean now. So was this a topic last year? No. Was this a topic 4 years ago? No. It only becomes a topic now because it was pushed. It was pushed because the Bud Light can was the only reason why this is just a big thing because most males, what do? Get off work, they drink a can of Bud. The lady was a marketer. She wanted to market the Bud Light was basically not going under, but she wanted to make more money out of it, right? So what she ended up doing, she says, okay, let's try this route. It didn't go very well for her. But that's because people just didn't like it pushed in their face. All right, that's just
Okay,
basically how it is, right?
but I'm trying to ask the question of what can they
Right.
do to make Republicans feel more comfortable with their community?
I don't think they can do anything. The only thing they can here's the thing: what they can make it more comfortable is not to talk about it, right? So people always say you need to talk about your feelings. I'm not that type of person. I'm pretty sure 90% of well, no, it's less than that now. I'm a different time of generation. Really, time of generation is where you're grown up. If you're growing up in the 80s, you lived through the 80s, 70s, and 80s, and now you're into this generation. A male of my stature now looks at what's going on now and saying to themselves, like, what in the world is going on here? We didn't have to have these conversations
Well,
because
but let's
we we're
take your route. Let's take your route. We're going to stop talking about it. I'm a
sure,
transgendered woman. Hang on, I'm a transgendered woman. Imagine me being a woman, and I want to
right?
go use the female bathroom. I'm not talking about it or anything. I just want to go use the bathroom. Are you okay with that?
No, I'm not because my son or my daughter, I don't agree with that. No, I'm sorry because there's not a whole lot of innocence on both sides. Look, so if you're a male and you dress up a female and you need to want to use the restroom, and I understand a lot of them are civil, right? How can you decide on a man that out of the blue decides to want to go and be the other sex, right? Because they decide that they want to identify that for the wrong reasons, right? The wrong reasons
But
would
wait a
be,
minute. Is there?
bro. No, there is
We
wrong
all
reasons.
know.
I gotta say this. I gotta say this because
All right, go ahead.
there is disgusting people out there. There really is. They don't think straight. So there's a lot of innocence of when it comes to children and the bathroom, your private areas, and stuff like that. So I mean, you don't have a lady in the men's room and vice versa, right? So
Okay,
what I'm
let me
trying to get
respond to
at
that.
is
Okay, let me respond to that.
right,
When we talk about gun control on this channel, and I'm on topic, just hear me out further. When
right.
we talk about
Oh,
gun
I'm with
control,
you.
it's always if you ban or outlaw guns, criminals will just find another way. If
Yeah,
you ban transgender people from going in the other bathroom on the guise that they may be a criminal, we're talking about child abuse or child assault, why can't they find another way? You think that a person that really wants to harm children cares about the law not allowing a female or a male to go in there? What about criminals finding another way?
Well, no, now you're just opening a different door. That's all. So you're open to it now instead of saying, okay, well, legalize all drugs, right? But here's the thing: people are still going to do it, right?
Right.
Same thing with the gun situation. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm just trying to put it in perspective. Just don't put it like out in the open, like, okay, look, this is just the way it is, you know? And that's kind of like, that wasn't just the way it is. You
Yeah,
can't,
but you're making me curious. Has there been a huge issue of people dressing up as the opposite sex to abuse children? Where is this fear coming from?
well, actually, there's been some cases where you hear that a man. So there was down here in Florida. That case did arise. A male, and it was a male that actually was probably about. It was last year. It was the time when Obama actually said men and women should use the same bathroom of
Yeah,
the
but you're
same sex
talking
and all
one.
that stuff.
You're
You know.
talking. You're talking one case. I will submit to you this.
Right.
If
Well,
you if
let's not. I don't want to go too far into that because if you think about it, you probably there's a lot of things you won't hear on the news. They only put things on the news to push Americans against Americans and talk about things. Think
well,
about
I
this.
will tell
They
you
talk
this.
about things
I will tell you this. I can tell
only
you
within
there's far
a
more
2 year
cases.
period.
There are far more cases as opposed to dressing up as a woman to abuse a child. There's far more cases of people dressing up as a priest to get the job done. I just don't see it from that angle. But let me ask you this. What if, okay, you're not a fan of me going into the opposite bathroom. What if I wanted to be a school teacher? I want to be a first grade teacher. I'm transgender. Would you be okay with that?
You know that everything's a hard topic, but I would not. I would be okay with it. Yes,
You would, yes, you would
because
be okay with that.
long as you're not long as you're not openly telling everyone that, hey, listen, you gotta you got here. There's different ways to go about everything, right? You got a job to do, and you're teaching children, right? But you're not teaching children about how you became a transgender, right? You know, you're
They're
not
going to
telling them
ask.
standing up there
Yeah,
like,
but
hey,
they're
listen,
going
this
to,
is
come
who
on
I
now,
am.
animal, they're going to ask. If you put lipstick and a wig on me, they're going to ask. It's kind of like the song, Dude Looks Like a Lady. The kids are going
Exactly,
to ask you
exactly, and
questions.
that's where I have a problem. That's where I have a problem with it. That's why I had to say it the way I did. You know, there's certain ways you can look at this. I mean, some males basically transgender from a young age, and hell, I got confused a couple of times. I mean, you're like, what the heck? No, you're a dude. Oh shit. Okay. Well, I had no idea. Well, here's the thing. It's like that. I mean, so there's a lot you can't tell. You can't tell sometimes. You know, I mean, they everything from what's going from the going to the doctor and having them do whatever they needed to help them transition, taking pills and all that stuff. That's a different world. And
Yes.
a male like me in this different world is finding it very hard, you know what I mean, to basically coincide with that
No
because
pun
we
intended.
have so many other topics. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
have so many other topics like is there going to be a war, or is having that said, that topic is way different than what we're talking about because it's like, hey, listen, okay, now
Well,
I'm
wait
not
a
worried
minute. We
about that,
would
right?
not
What we
be,
should
hang on a
do,
second. We would not be talking
right?
about this if the Republican Party was not trying to pass so many laws against this group of people.
And I think there's a reason why. See, because so everybody has a certain agenda when they try to coming to an closest to a election. So some people take the biblical thing. Men should be men, women should be women. If you're not for your say your upbringing as a male or female, right? A lot of it look at it as a religious thing as well. So
Separation of church and state. Wait a
Republicans
minute.
on their
Separation of
side.
church and
So
state. It shouldn't be in the laws.
yes, but right, it shouldn't be, but this is the way it is because it's always been like that. So what they do is do things totally different, and then Republicans do totally something different, and then Democrats do. So they try to appease one side. They try to say, okay, why they're doing it to the 1% that I don't know about, right? So, but the 1%, right? So 1% is basically transgender because honestly, the masses ain't. that we know of.
Okay.
But I'm
All
just
right.
saying.
All right. Okay.
So
All
the
right.
ass is
I
ink.
gotta
So
move it on, though,
everybody,
man.
when
All
there's a
right.
right.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. I do gotta move it on, but like I said before,
religion should not be in our decision process. This is why I talk about oftentimes why when folks say, well, why do you lean left? And it's because the progressive nature in me, because the way the founding fathers set the country up, I believe they were being hypocritical, if not dishonest, starting with separation of church and state. It's as if they said we're going to make laws based on, actual the votes of the people, the republic itself. We're not going to make it, based on religion, separation of church and state. And then they opened up the damn Bible and started making all the laws. So I do believe the founding fathers from day one were hypocritical as hell with the separation of church and state, because a hell of a lot of our laws are based on the Bible. And then, of course, that all men are created equal thing didn't work for me very well as either. But anyway, looking in the comments, the question we're asking for those who may be just tuning in, well, one of the questions is, can you tap the screen and get your boy up to 35,000 likes? But the question we're asking is, what can the transgender community do to become more favorable to the Republican Party? After all, there are plenty of transgendered individuals that give a damn about the economy, that care about the border, that does not want World War III to progress. There are plenty of transgender folks that are heavily involved in politics. Nevertheless, they do not seem as if they are in favor of the Republican Party. So I'm asking, what can these two groups do to become more favorable to each other? I don't know if I've quite gotten an answer yet. I'm still trying to talk to the folks. As always, I don't block, ban, or censor you. This program is and always will remain MAGA friendly. MAGA are my preferred guests, but liberals are welcome as well. Perhaps we get lucky and get a transgender on here to have the discussion. Now, I do have transgendered folks that I follow on my page. I know they are transgender. I don't have any issue with the community. Sometimes I comment on their content. And as my last caller stated, sometimes you just can't tell. I've been in live streams and actually asked a couple people, are you really trans? Which I know is probably insulting as hell, but to some degree it's a compliment suggesting, damn, you pulled that off very well. Anyhow, going back to the comments, laugh out loud, aren't conservatives supposed to want less government control? That is often what you hear. This is what happens, says Larry. That is what you often hear. The Republican Party are for smaller government. The liberals are supposedly for bigger government. I would submit to you, everyone is for big government when big government does what they want them to do. If big government is helping you impose your agenda, helping America become the way you want it to be, you're all for big government. And anyone who tells you differently is probably being dishonest. But nevertheless, we'll go back to the box. The only Jemmy Pizzini. Good afternoon.
to the program. Welcome back. Talking about Republicans and the transgender community working it out. How can that be done?
I got a couple of good ones for you. One, if the transgender community all of a sudden came out in support of the NRA, Republicans would stop picking on them. Boom.
Oh, okay. Well, you gotta assume, considering how unsafe it is to be in that community, you gotta assume some of them are packing heat.
I wouldn't be CWP if I was transgender for sure.
Yeah, you gotta put it. That garter belt got a 9mm under it or something like that.
Come run up on me. I'm gonna stand my ground. I know exactly what to do and what to say. I was in fear for my life, officer.
Yeah. So do you see, when you look at the transgender community in the Republican Party, do you see any type of hatred going on?
You know, I think the hard line that's happening right now, and I hate to always just blame the media, but I feel like that a few transgender people I know are hardline Republicans. So it's like they don't want the government messing around with them. They want to be left alone. So the people that are making those comments.
Wait a minute. Hardline Republicans. President Trump said at CPAC a couple months ago, President Trump got on stage at CPAC and stated, if I am reelected, I am going to ask Congress to go by the gender on your birth certificate. Meaning that for the rest of your life, what your birth certificate says, you're going to go by that. So under Trump's under Trump's, I guess you say, administration, if he is reelected, that would mean in the eyes of government, transgender essentially will cease to exist. You
Well,
can't put female on your driver's license because they got to go by your birth certificate. How could you be
yeah,
hardline Republican in an
well,
environment like that?
because they don't necessarily agree with what Trump says. I mean, look, we're talking about the same guy that was in a video with his lawyer Rudy Giuliani, dressed in drag, motorboating him. Like, I don't think you
Did
can
that,
take
wait,
everything.
did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. You can totally look it up. It's making its rounds yet again. Um, and I had the video for a long time. I used to share it on my Facebook page because I thought it was hilarious. But he
Who's
tells Rudy how
motorboat? Who has the titties? Trump
Trump
or Giuliani?
Trump is significantly younger than he was when he was president. Rudy Giuliani, they're in like a department store, and Rudy comes up to him dressed in drag. Trump tells Rudy how beautiful he is. He asked him, he says, you must have a scent of your own. And Rudy has him smell his neck, and then he sprays it on his chest, and Trump motorboats him, and he goes, oh, get him out. It is the most hilarious thing. If you have not seen it, and this was I was going to make this joke comment, but if you watch that video, if you're trans, you want to be sharing that video, talking about how Trump is progressive and how much you
Is
love him.
it a meme or is it an actual motion video?
It is a motion video. It is legit. It has been around for years. I believe Trump was probably about 10 years, 15 years younger than he is now. You can totally look it up, man. You're going to have a great time watching it. The full-length video is hilarious, but it has also made its way into being a meme. I just watched it again right before I got on your program. One of the live content creators.
Oh my! I wish I was doing my live stream at home with the monitor behind me because I'd bring it up. But Dimebag in the comments,
this is the guy.
Dimebag in the comments is saying that was a fake. Is it possible that was some type of fake video?
That is not a fake video. It is 100% real. Go check it out for yourself. You don't believe me? Just look it up. So the reason why I'm saying that is you're talking about a guy who is coming out against you publicly, but then has made actions that are also public that are not necessarily against you, right? So like you've got to be like, oh, he's just talking about that because it's a campaign issue, people in the bathrooms, just like we all know that's nonsense. Like you don't have a boys and a girls bathroom at your house unless you're lucky enough to have 5 bathrooms. Like we all use the same bathroom. And by the same hand, you got the same people that are making these kinds of moves are the same ones that lie about their family members assaulting their children. Like most kids that are assaulted by family members, people you know.
Yeah.
So like the fact that we're worried about trans people it's a political stunt. Like it's not like that's not
But
real.
you mentioned you mentioned the media. Now, in regards to the media potentially having an agenda to divide us, what Ron DeSantis is doing down there has nothing to do with the media. Ron DeSantis is on a one-man mission against the transgender community. The media is just reporting that shit. The media is not making him pass laws that you can't talk about it in school and things like that. He's doing that on his own.
Well, Ron is a straight up bigot, and if you've known before he went into office, this guy was seen regularly at white supremacist meetings and things like that. Like Ron is all the way around bigot. And if like my sister lives in Florida. If you are into bigotry, if that's your thing, if you're scared of everybody else being, weird or gay or trans or black or whatever, Ron DeSantis is your guy. So, like, the fact that he's doing that is not a surprise to me. Like that would be like if you told me David Duke came out against black people. I know. Like that's not a shock to me.
So let me ask you this then. In regards to the transgender community, which one would be more favorable to them if we had to have a conservative administration following Biden? Would Trump be more favorable to the transgender community or would DeSantis?
It's Trump, 100%. I would rarely ever pick him to win anything, but if I was trans, I'd want him to be the guy. Not Ron. Like Ron is pure hatred on every level. So like if you go to Trump, he's just going to say whatever makes him popular. So like, and even though I would say he did a lot of things that are hateful, if I had to choose between those two, I mean, come on, man, I'm picking Trump the whole way. Like he's just a bluster.
Keep in mind, but keep in mind what I just stated. Trump said he would ask Congress to essentially eradicate the transgender community entirely. Once they go by what's on your birth certificate.
Wait a minute now. What he wants you to do is have it on your driver's license. So he doesn't want you to eliminate the community. He's not calling for eradication of the community.
That's not true. That's not true. If you have Congress Go by what's on your birth certificate. You can't put female on your taxes. You can't put female on
Yeah,
anything the government recognizes. That means that in the eyes of
correct, correct.
government, you cease to exist.
Well, no, you would cease to be the gender with which you describe yourself. So
That's
that's a little different than
transgender. That's
ceasing
what
to exist.
transgender is all about. It's changing gender. If you don't change gender, you're not transgender.
Yeah, but I'll give you another example. Let me turn the page just a little bit for you. So let's say like my last life partner, she was with me for 15 years. We were not married legally, but to everyone we knew, we were married. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you don't necessarily need the government to acknowledge you. Now I know these
Yeah,
people want
but
to be acknowledged. I'm not saying that, but that doesn't mean you don't exist anymore. Like I think you're using a little bit of language
if
that
I
I wouldn't
cannot
choose that.
if I decide I want to become a woman, I transition into a woman because I feel that's in my heart, and I can't put female on none of my government documents. How is that not ceasing to exist?
Well, because if you're saying that that's what you were born as, then if you're saying you're trans, what that means is you were born as, and now you don't agree with. So like, I don't think that think that I think that doesn't
How
acknowledge you,
can
which
I?
is
Okay, let me
horrible.
ask. Let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase it. If
Okay,
Trump is able to get his way and do that, tell me how in government eyes I can successfully transition.
I don't think you can. But if you compare
That's the
that to
point.
DeSantis,
That's the
but if you
point.
compare that
He
to
literally
DeSantis,
would
he's going to be
prevent you from transitioning. He literally would
yeah,
eradicate your ability to transition.
yeah.
That's annihilating the transgender community
So
altogether.
so you don't think I don't think that annihilates a community. I think that annihilates the acknowledgement from the government of the community in the way they want to be perceived. If you and the way I'm going to turn this is if you think Ron DeSantis wouldn't do something worse than that, then you haven't been paying attention to what he's saying and what he's
How
trying to
much?
do.
What are you going to do? Throw him in jail? How much more worse you can do than tell me I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
even exist?
Yeah, I feel like instead of just taking away your status as a male or a woman the way you want to be seen, I think Ron would do things that would actively persecute you personally. I don't know whether that's would really come to, but that's the way I see them. So if I had to choose between them, again, I wouldn't pick either one of those guys. I think it's hilarious. But in those two choices,
I
yeah, I
get
go
it.
that way.
I
Oh, I
get your
wanted to
point
hit you
now.
with something else before I get out of here, by the way.
Sure, go ahead. I
Our
get the
last
last word. Go ahead.
conversation our last conversation was about Bud Light. Have you noticed their stock is trending upwards again? I'm just
No, I
saying,
have
isn't
not,
that?
because I did a show when it was down 5 billion, but I have not
Yeah, that's the one I
noticed.
was on, and now it's back up about 2.5 billion or something like that. They're trending back upwards again, and like I predicted, they're going to be because people are talking about them. They're going to get more active. It's they planned that shit out, man. So like I know
All
that
right.
ties into the
I
transgender
don't know.
ideology, but
We'll see. We'll talk about it in the future. I don't know, but we'll see. You might be right. I got to
so
move
dress
it
up
on,
in
though, Jamie.
all right. Dress up
Good
in
talk.
drag and carry your NRA rifle out there, and they're gonna start voting for you too. You know.
As a black man, you're trying to get me shot from every damn body. All right, I got to move.
All right, looking in the comments, the government did that with 3/5 of a person. Yeah, that's a depressing part of our history in regards to black history, denoting us as 3/5 of a human being. Now, I'm assuming you're suggesting that somehow, some way they would look at transgendered as less than a human. I hope it don't get that damn bad. All right, looking in the comments. By the way, tap the screen. As always, this program is and shall remain MAGA friendly in its entirety. MAGA are my preferred guests, but liberals are welcome as well. Make the solemn promise I don't ban, block, or censor anyone for their commentary. The fact that you might disagree with the host never means a damn thing here. Haven't gotten anyone that's really I guess I've had some MAGA on here. I haven't had any trans. I normally get some of those. Like I said, I do have transgendered folks that I follow, folks that follow me as well. Sometimes we do communicate. Trump 2020, Trump 2024. Well, he didn't win in 2020, misbehave. He didn't win in 2020. I understand some of my beloved MAGA think so, but Fox News, $787.5 million shows otherwise, because they certainly would have proved it if it could have saved them $750 million. You're a great man, most respectful on this app. Wow, Speedy Cotton. Love that. Flattery gets you everywhere. Tap the screen, folks. 45,000 likes should be possible. Nearly 1,000 participants. You could be anywhere you want to be on this damn app. The fact that you're rolling with your boy is an honor. Question we're asking, Stevie D, thanks for the weights. How can the transgender community become more favorable to the Republican Party? What can they do have the Republican Party see them in a more favorable light? I still am kind of iffy on whether I'm getting a good, solid answer to that question, but nevertheless, we'll keep it moving. Pet Shark. That's a unique name. Let's go with it. Pet Shark. What can the what can the transgender community do to become more favorable to the Republican Party? I don't know what's going on with TikTok, but it looks like it's not letting my last guest up. We'll keep it going and see if it brings them in. Well, you ain't got your boy in there yet. The truth doctor, okay? What does it say? Don't understand what's going on. He isn't MAGA. Look at his tag name. For those folks who may be wondering, while we're waiting on this, I'll go ahead and give you my spiel. The purpose of the MAGA hat, I do lean left politically. I make no qualms about that. You see the name of the program. The purpose of why you will always see a MAGA hat behind me is because I strongly believe, I say it on every broadcast, I believe the conservatives, Republicans, and particularly MAGA do not get a fair shake in the media. I believe the moment they start speaking, they're often canceled, censored, or blocked. I don't think that anyone should have their speech blocked, canceled, or censored in what we would refer to as a free nation. Just because someone is on the other side of the aisle of myself or you should not give you the right or either right to ban or block them. So the hat is to let MAGA know this program is and always will remain MAGA friendly without any fear of them being censored, banned, or blocked. Coming from the left side of the aisle, I have my own opinions on gun control, abortion, religion, and things like that. A lot of them on the right think I'm a complete idiot. I don't want them censoring me because they think my opinion makes no damn sense. So why should I censor them? Do unto others. That is the entire spiel of this. And the whole purpose of showing folks, if we can have civilized dialogue in this tiny ass corner of social media, they can do this in Washington too. They're just not trying. So always come on in, state your point without any fear of being blocked, banned, or censored. And that's the reason why the damn hat is here. All right, looking in the comments, I found some Trump Giuliani on YouTube in drag. Oh my God, and it is funny, so check this out. Adam, I am going to look at that right after the program concludes. Joe and Ross, 1977. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. I don't know what's going on with the box. We'll keep it moving. Tap the screen. Get your boy up to 45,000 likes. I would appreciate that. It helps out the algorithms. And real quick, we do this Monday through Friday. If this is what you prefer, what you enjoy, civilized dialogue from both sides of the aisle without any fear of being blocked, banned, or censored for your opinions, follow the program. Helps out the algorithms. We're here to hear from you. All right, I don't know why I cannot bring up my last two guests. So we'll try it again. Coffee Queen Warrior. I don't know why it's not letting me bring. I do apologize. There's no banning going on, so I don't know what the hell's going on. Coffee Queen.
Hello.
How can the transgender community become more favorable to the GOP? Go.
So first off, it is not the entire transgender community. The issue, so I do not like cis. It's no different than pronouns. If someone wants me to respect the pronouns, respect that. I don't want to be called cis. I'm a natural woman. It is the transgender women who are coming on here and saying that they are better and they can 100% relate to a natural woman. You cannot. If you are born a woman, there are things that somebody who is not born a woman can just not 100% relate to. No different than somebody who was born as a man and wants to identify as a man. We cannot 100% relate to the man. There's differences and there's reasons for those differences.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Fancy Prancy, I appreciate the heart. Thank you. Let me ask you this. If, let's say, some of the issues, like, for instance, wanting to use the opposite restroom, if I became a female, would you be okay with me using the other opposing bathroom if I didn't try to tell women I'm better than them?
So that again, so I think there's two different things. There's extremist and then there's your general population. I can't sit here and say that prior to the bathroom becoming a big deal that I've never had a transgender person come into the bathroom, because I don't know.
That is
It
true.
was just, if you come in, you come in. If you look like a woman, you look like a woman. The issue with the bathroom is the fact that now you have opened the doors for predators to just identify and use the restrooms. It If somebody comes in and they're dressed like a woman, and I don't watch everybody that comes in the bathroom, because that's just weird. I mean, you're in a bathroom, and why do you want to watch people? But
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. I'll let you continue, but let me ask you this. We know in this country there is a significant amount of history, whether it's a Catholic Church or Boy Scouts or some of these other groups abusing children, yet there is no push to stop them from being around children. When it comes to the transgender community, is there like a significant history of people dressing up as the opposite sex and abusing children? Where is all of this
on,
proactive coming
honestly,
from?
not that I've heard. I haven't heard. I will tell you. So, a guy that I dated, there was a family friend of theirs that would have loved to have had the surgery, but he could not. I respectfully called him by his trans name, because that's what he wanted to be called, or she, sorry, that's what she wanted to be called. But it was never made a big deal. She
But that's
was
it. But you
born.
you brought up the possibility of somebody who's a predator using this angle to dress up as the opposite sex to get at children. And I'm pointing out known groups that are known with a significant history of actually doing it. Talking
Right.
about priests, talking about why is the push towards transgender people stronger than it is toward folks who are actually known to commit the abuse?
Well, I don't even think that it's such a stronger thing. I think so. The media does a play. I don't care what anybody says. The media does play a part, because there are a lot of people who they don't choose to go look up the facts and the reality of it. They're looking at the media, whichever way it's pushing. Am I conservative? 100%. But am I open minded? I had a friend of mine who was very liberal, and we used to have civilized debates all the time. We could see where the other one was coming from. So my thing is, there was a time in history where the Boy Scouts were publicly in the news. It was a big thing. But then the
Well,
next thing came around.
I would submit to you doing some of the most abusive times of the Catholic Church and the Boy Scouts, the media was not involved in it at all. To some degree, without the media, it was way worse than the media we're talking about now. But I don't get why folks on the right are not like really against priests being around children. If you truly care about protecting children, we're going after a group that we think might would do something and ignoring a group with a huge history that is decades long of actually doing it.
Well,
Does that make sense?
me as a mother, I don't let anybody that I don't know
That ain't what I'm talking about.
alone
You
with
talking
my
about yourself. Wait a minute, but that's you. Hang on a second. You talking about you specifically, and I
child.
understand it.
Right.
I'm talking about the Republican Party, though, in general. Why do they favor actual abusers and actually have an issue with folks that they think might do it in the future?
Well, considering the fact that I am not part of the upper party part, I couldn't speak for them. Sorry, I have dogs. I couldn't speak for them, but I will say, like I said, I can relate. Diesel, shut up. I
Did you say
agree.
your dog is named Devo?
Diesel.
Oh, Diesel. Okay.
Yeah. Stop it.
Keep going. Keep going. Okay.
Sorry about that. But I do agree. Now, with that being said, do I think that all trans people are bad? And no, again, there's extremists and there's general population. All priests are not bad. All cops are not bad. All blacks are not racist. All whites are not racist. And I think people are focusing on the extremists more so than they are the general population.
I don't see it. I don't. Here's why I don't see that, Coffee Queen. You say people are focused on the extremists more than a. I don't see any focus at all on the Catholic Church to prevent children from being abused. I see
But
far more focus on a community that has virtually no history of abuse, but they're doing it to prevent what they think could culminate. The amount of laws being passed to keep Catholics away from children is virtually non-existent. But
So,
they're coming up with all of this stuff against the transgender community when they actually have no history of doing it.
okay,
I
so
just don't
so let me
understand that.
let me turn it around on you. Do you know for a fact that there's not a history of trans people doing it?
That's a good question. I will answer that by saying I don't know for a fact that there's a history of them doing it, but I do know for a fact there is a history of the Catholic Church doing it,
I
and they're not
agree.
getting the same treatment. Why?
I
Why aren't they
agree.
getting the same treatment?
But however, is it every Catholic church? You see where I'm going with this?
No, and no, I don't, because the amount of history. No, it's not every Catholic church. I get you on that, but the amount of history in the Catholic Church of playing musical chairs with known abusers, not
Oh,
allowing them to be prosecuted, moving them
oh, I
around.
agree. I agree.
Then,
They should all
then
be
where is the
prosecuted.
legislation? Where is the legislation against this group?
So that is where you have people who like to, and I'm going to talk on liberal, conservative, all sides. You have people who like to talk, yell, and complain, but they don't like to do anything about it. So the minute that the people are standing up and they go, hey, this isn't right and this needs to be taken care of, and go to their legislation, because human nature is you only want to pick and choose what affects you.
Okay, fair
And
enough. I got to move it on, but before I do, let me ask you this one last question.
okay,
If you have a politician, let's say like a Ron DeSantis, I don't know what his religion is, but if you have a politician like a Ron DeSantis passing these laws against the transgender community to protect children, supposedly, but they're going to mass at a Catholic church every weekend, do you see that as being hypocritical?
absolutely.
Fair enough. All right. That's consistent towards the end. Coffee Queen, come on back through anytime I do got to move it on.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
I'm going to
you.
shoot you a follow. I like your debates.
I appreciate it. Always a pleasure. Come on. My door is always open. All right.
Comments. Non-Asians, man. What does that mean? No one arrested in Chicago street violence. Talk about privilege. You know, just to get off topic for a brief moment, because we do talk about violence in Chicago and things like that quite often when it comes to folks on the right. The entire conversation about Chicago is biased in nature. The reason I suggest that is when you talk about the murder capital in America, it's often St. Louis, Memphis, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. That doesn't come up, though, in right-wing circles, because in those areas, Louisiana, Missouri, Tennessee, there's no tough gun laws. There are no tough gun laws. The governors of these states are Republican. So you hear about Chicago, New York, St. Louis, or not St. Louis, New York, San Francisco. You hear about liberal areas because it makes better sense to promote the agenda because everybody's liberal. But when the same stuff starts happening in Republican areas, such as the mass casualty event that happened in Alabama, 4 lost their lives, 20-something people or something like that wounded. If that had happened in Chicago, it would have been on Fox News on every segment. Happened in Alabama, Republican governor, Republican state, no tough gun laws, barely covered, barely mentioned at all. But you go and see some kids taking over a shopping mall or robbing the hell out of a Walmart in Chicago, it gets airplay constantly. Not to say that Chicago doesn't have some significant problems, but it's not the only city that has these problems. There's a lot of these same problems in Republican areas, but it doesn't fit the agenda to cover them. All right, going back to the actual topic, though, I have noticed that years ago. Yeah, Chicago being liberal, tough gun laws, home of Obama, it makes a perfect target to go after because everything about the area is liberal. But if you do any of the same issues in Chicago, in a Republican state, the coverage suddenly drops on right-wing circles because you can't blame it all on liberals. It's not as fun anymore. So I say no matter what media you watch, there is an agenda. Only CNN covers gun violence when race can be applied. And that's the agenda from the other side. Now, in regards to the comment, why don't you see them covering black on black violence versus when a white man do it, they always cover it? Well, if a black person attacks a white person, no, you're right. CNN's not going to cover it fairly. You know who will? Fox News. It'll be all over Fox News. But when you see an African American get shot through the door for ringing the wrong doorbell, you're not going to hear much of that on Fox at all. Might get a couple seconds of mention on a segment here or there. If that same event had happened in Kansas City, but it was a white 16-year-old being shot by a black guy through the door, Fox News would be airing the shit out of that. You would have Jesse Waters on the porch talking to the owner. Why won't you answer the door? It's my world. You're just trying to get in it. So you got to realize the media has spin no matter what. I've been watching Fox 20 plus years. I've been watching CNN for maybe half that time. I can see it on both sides. Going to the comments, or better yet, the box. The Truth Doctor. Always a pleasure.
Afternoon. Welcome to the program. How can the transgender community become more favorable to the GOP? Tap the screen, folks. 55,000 appreciated. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's on them to bridge the gap. Okay, I think it's on the people that listen. When you don't understand something, the first thing that you do is you fear it, right? You don't understand how to relate to it, right? I actually was in a live the other day, and I wanted to talk to you about this. We were talking about, the transgender book readings and stuff like that. And I just offered a solution. I said, what if we had a transgender person, a police officer, a army soldier, and a firefighter all on the stage at once reading, the same book and doing it, simultaneously. And
Sound like the village people.
right, but just doing it as like a collective community doing it, right? And you want to know what the one transgender person in that live did? They broke down crying because all they really wanted to do was feel as if, they were a part of, that select community, that they were a part of the people, right? It has nothing to do with whether or not they're trying to indoctrinate kids. It has everything to do with their insecurity is literally that they want to feel a part of that, right? And why not include it? Why not be inclusive? Why not come up with solutions that involve everyone? Why not involve the whole community to start understanding these things instead of being
Well,
fearful of it?
let me ask you this, and being from the left side of the aisle, I tend to agree with a lot of that, but I do have some pushback, and this would apply to any of my transgendered viewers. Playing for the opposing team. I'm 6'6", 300 pounds. I say it all the time. If I dress up like a female, I'm going to score a hell of a lot of points on the females basketball team. And I'm not even good at basketball, but I can do pretty damn well around a bunch of girls. Do you see that as something that's fair?
So I would say absolutely not. I think that, and I've always called it dressing down. Okay. I don't think that you should be able to dress down. Now, if you want to dress up, which means that, if you want to put yourself in a situation where it would probably be considered more harmful for you to do that than not, then that again is an adult decision. But it is not a
Well,
child's
wait a minute. I'll let you continue, but let's take it that way. Let's say, for instance, a transgendered female. Let's say Jennifer Aniston, little small Jennifer Aniston, decided she wanted to identify as a male, and she steps into the MMA ring with somebody that's, as skilled as, say, Floyd Mayweather or somebody like that, and she gets her ass beat. How does that look on a male beating the hell out of somebody that used to be a female? You think that might
well,
interfere with his own reputation? Can he
it's,
get on the stage and brag about how he beat the hell out of somebody that was born a woman?
Well, again, that's up. First of all, that's up to that human being. I know I wouldn't do it, but like I said, it is an adult decision. I am not going to let that be a child's decision, though. We cannot do this in children's sports. We can't have them dress up, if you will, in that kind of sports situation. Okay.
Yeah, but I guess
I
the
think I
question
think.
here's
I'm
what I'm
sorry.
trying to say though. If you are a alpha male in some of these sporting arenas like we're talking about, and you do win against somebody who was born a female and has made the transition, I would submit to you that your teammates and your opponents are going to put an asterisk by you and say, you didn't do
I
shit. You just beat a
I don't
girl.
disagree with you at all, and like I said, I wouldn't do it. But again, like if there are people out there that would do it, not me, but someone else, like if that person dresses up, like I said, moves up, and like it's called moving up in weight class, I guess is what I'm saying. Like if you move up and it's your decision, as an adult, then that's an adult decision. But I don't think you should be able to dress down. As in, like, I don't think LeBron James should be able to play in the WNBA, score 850 points a game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's just
Yeah, but
that that's
what about
silly.
but I get your point about it's okay to go up but not down. But what about from the standpoint of a straight male saying, I don't want to have a match with somebody who's born a female because it's not going to help my reputation now. And if I get in there and lose to somebody that was born a female, it could destroy my whole career. I don't even want to be put in this predicament to
What do
wrestle
I
or
have to say
fight
about
or
that? What do I have to say
go
about
ahead.
that? I like I said before, I personally wouldn't do it. The athlete has the choice to do something like that. And of course, we're not just talking about boxing rings and MMA. Like there's other sports out there, right? It's not just
Any
one
of
on
them.
one.
Any of them,
And
unless you lose
and
to yeah, unless you're
there's
losing
team
to a
sports.
female at chess, anything you lose to a female at, you're gonna look bad.
Oh, come on. I lose to my fucking girlfriend in darts all the time. I don't care. She's amazing at darts. I don't care.
Okay, yeah,
Like
in
honestly,
darts.
that doesn't bother me at all. Losing to a female, I think anyone that has that kind of mentality is just silly. But
Okay,
what I'm trying to say though is it does transfer into like team sports as well. And like what we have to decide is where are we going to continue to move the goalposts? Like where does it end? You know, are we going to continue to move it into these things? Because one of the funny things is we had a female kicker that was in college football, and you know she kicked the first successful field goal as a female kicker, female athlete, right? And it was
hmm
celebrated. Now let me ask you a question: would it have been celebrated if LeBron James was the first male to do a dunk in the WNBA?
no,
I would go ahead and fathom that that wouldn't be celebrated, right?
no,
And
not
so
at
this
all.
is kind of my my point is that like what we need to do is we need to understand that you know that there is a a line that needs to be drawn as far as I'm concerned that is called adult versus not, right? And let's start it there. And then after that, if we want to start talking about you know inclusivity into different sports, like I said, dressing down versus dressing up. And I think that you know once you make an adult decision, all right, and you put your name on the line to do that, and someone else wants to compete against you, that's up to them. But I would never, ever, ever do that myself. I think that you're right. I think a lot of males would probably want to, you know, avoid that. I think
Yeah,
they wouldn't, especially if it was in a violent sport. And I think
right.
that, you know, I think that team sports need to uh, figure out whether or not, you know, there are certain you know aspects of like a female being involved in some of like
Yeah,
say
they need
NFL.
to. What's going to end up happening? I got to move it on. What's going to end up happening? They need their
But
own.
you
They're going to have to get their own
but
league.
I didn't even get to answer the first question, which is what
Okay,
can they
real
do?
quick, go ahead.
So the one thing that I would say is be patient, okay? That's what I would say as transgender. Be patient because sometimes when you don't know something, you get scared and you immediately respond, right? And everyone does this. When you get scared of something you don't know, you immediately respond and react to the unknown. Be patient and don't automatically assume that everyone's a bad guy out there. Okay.
All right.
I think that there's a way to do this and there's a way to communicate, but we just have to figure it out. One of my best friends on this app is Jakarta, and she likes to be called a she, is a transgender person, but it was the me shutting my mouth, opening my ears, listening, and being patient,
Okay.
and understanding how I got through that.
Fair enough. I got to move it on. Appreciate you coming in, True
You know, I
Talker.
love you, brother. We'll talk later. Hey, by the way, you owe
Absolutely.
me.
I don't know what I owe him, but let me know in the comments. Looking in the comments real quick, someone pointed out something I wanted to address, and for some reason TikTok moved it on. Here we go. Chloe said, Chloe said the idea that if a man is beat by a woman, anything gets embarrassing for men is misogynistic. So I guess referencing the statement I said that if you are a man and you lose to a transgendered female, and you feel like it's embarrassing or it could hurt your career, just having that thought makes you a misogynistic male. I'm not going to disagree with that, but at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you almost all combat sports, contact sports, are filled with misogynistic alpha males. That's everywhere in contact sporting events, everywhere. So most of your contact athletes are misogynistic. So I don't know, you're pointing out the obvious, when you go and dunk on somebody, you trash talk, or sometimes we used to say that is gay, or you swing like a PUS. We all done that. Yes, you're damn right it's misogynistic. I get it. But that is what happens in contact sports. And if you got a guy that gets in there and loses to a female that transition, you be taunting them, and got beat by a girl. That is absolutely going to come up. Misogyny or not, it's going to come up. It's going to potentially harm visuals because you didn't just lose, you lost to a female. It's going to come up. Comments. The scenario you present will not happen. I don't believe that, Blessed. In real life, women kick men's asses all the time. There's no shortage of women on World Star or on Facebook Reels beating up dudes. Serena Williams, there are some dudes that get their ass beat by them. So it would certainly happen in sports, particularly now when they're training and beating up bags. That's women. That's the common sentiment right now. A community are against allowing transitioned people to play on the teams of other sports. Like I said before, that's going to a bunch of chicks. Out of the hour you're on. That is going to come up. All right, let's keep it moving. Go back to the box, and I understand it's toxic. It is what it is. Yeah, I don't know why it's saying connection failed. Some reason I can't bring up free for all. Let's see. If we try it again. Having some trouble with this damn app. Yeah, there are plenty of strong women in the world. Exactly. Adam. That is true. There are plenty of strong women in the world. Adam and Eve. Not Adam is Eve. Well, of church. What about people not believe in the Bible? You're telling folks that they behave in a way that in even Jesus Christ on everybody. But I've heard Adam and Eve, Adam and Steve. Yeah, my folks have said I'm lagging. Somebody said it's lagging because I'm speaking BS. Oh my God. I guess if I'm lagging, I may have to appreciate you guys that have following me. There's a much another minute, please. Freezing and lagging that bad. I'm not because normally when I can see on my side of it as well. So I assume this might be something it's lagging that bad. Yeah, I would not be surprised if yeah, it could be. It could be the powers that be are cutting me off because I tried anything. So nevertheless, now because when the system is working right, follow the program. It helps out the algorithms, helps out your boy. I appreciate these 61,000 likes. but I can't stop the app for censor. 600 to you guys in here. It was like 800 or something in. I don't know what the hell happened, but I don't know what causing it. I really do not know, because normally when I lag, I can see it. And I'm in it right. Something my censor. And folks that have tuned in, you folks that have followed me. And as always, Monday through Friday, we are here as usual. So I'll go ahead and end it, because if you don't have your phone charging, that could be the problem. Well, my phone is always charging during these lives. Were you on yesterday? Yeah, I'm on every day this time. Monday through Friday, I'm on generally from about 12 to 2. But I don't know why it's lagging so. Program. You said for the portion of it, though, I can't. It's acting weird. I cannot get it. So it is what it is. Appreciate you folks. Follow around. Catch you on the next live stream. It's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. I'm out. I think I'm out.